In this video, we will look at how to practice the different verb forms in Japanese. Japanese verb forms can be quite tricky to get to grips with, and they require a modest amount of explanation, quite a bit of focus, and a lot of practice, and hopefully this video will help you get started. Let's start with looking at some English example sentences. Here we can see three main forms, not necessarily forms in the linguistic sense, but forms or variants nonetheless. With these three forms, past, present and progressive, we can see that if we include both their affirmative and negative sentences, only one form, the affirmative past verb, is modified internally. That is, there are no words outside of the verb that modify its meaning. The other variants are modified externally, usually with a word like did, signifying past, or not, signifying negative. Now, let's look at the same sentences in Japanese. As we can see here, aside from the Japanese SOV order versus the English SVO order, the verbs, highlighted in red, are all modified internally. They do not use any external words to modify their tense or meaning, and in being modified internally seem to change in some pretty crazy ways. However, if we look closely enough, we can see some patterns. All of the negative forms have some sort of nai section. All of the past forms have some sort of ta section. And both of the progressive forms have a te section in the middle. So maybe we can figure this out after all. The secret is that the Japanese verbs change based on their dictionary form endings. While all Japanese verbs end with an u sound, the Japanese syllabary distinguishes not by vowel sounds but mainly by consonant vowel sound units. Here we can see three examples of different verb endings using the words meet, talk, and drink. Ao, hanasu, nomu. Ao ends with a u, hanasu ends with a su, and nomu ends with a mu. Let's see how these three verbs with different endings change differently on the next page. Here, take some time to look at the chart of basic verb changes below. Feel free to pause and try to spot the patterns yourself. Did you see any patterns? Maybe you spotted some of the following things. The nai negative forms all end with a nai, which follows an a sound, with the consonant of this consonant vowel sound being the same as the consonant of the dictionary form's consonant vowel sound, with the exception of ao, whose u changes to a wa. So hanasu becomes hanasanai, and nomu becomes nomanai. The te forms, usually serving as linking or progressive form links, all seem to have te as the ending, but apart from that they seem to be rather random. This is quite normal, and we will look at this on the next page. The ta forms look exactly the same as the te forms, but with an a ending instead of an I ending. This makes the form, usually used for the past tense, quite easy to remember. The changes have some patterns, but still seem to be rather confusing, right? However, there is another thing to consider, and that is that there are two main types of Japanese verbs, along with a few irregular verbs. The two main categories are ichidan one-stage verbs, which are relatively simple, and godan five-stage verbs, which are definitely not so simple. Next, let's look at them in more detail. The ichidan verbs, of which two are shown here, are quite simple. Usually, if a verb has an I or an E before a ru ending, it is an ichidan verb. Its changes are quite simple too. Remove the ru ending from the dictionary verb to give us the verb stem, and then add the desired form. For example, the verb eat, taberu, becomes tabenai, tabete, and tabeta. The verb wear, kiru, becomes kinai, kite, kita. These verbs are the easiest to modify. Next, let's move on to the more difficult 5-stage verbs. Here we can see that there are a lot of different verb endings within the 5-stage verbs, and that they are separated into 4 main categories. The first category includes verbs with an u, s, or r dictionary form ending, and these change as previously explained. The nigh negative forms all end with a nigh, which follows an sound, with the consonant of this consonant vowel sound being the same as the consonant of the dictionary form's consonant vowel sound, with the exception again of ow, whose changes to wa. So we get ow, awanai, mats, matanai, and uru, uranai. Their te and ta forms remove the dictionary form consonant vowel sound ending and replace it with a double T, which in practice extends the gap between the sound words like this. Atte, matte, utte, atta, matta, utta. The second category is straightforward within itself, but looks a little strange when compared with the other categories. Again, the nigh negative forms all end with a nigh, which follows an a sound, with the consonant of this consonant vowel sound being the same as the consonant of the dictionary form's consonant vowel sound. So we get yobu, yobanai, nomu, nomanai, and shinu, shinanai. Their te and ta forms remove the dictionary form consonant vowel sound ending and replace it with an nde or nda, like this. Yonde, yonda. Nonde, nonda. Shinde, shinda. The third category is similar to the second. Again, the nigh negative forms all end with a nigh, which follows an a sound, as with the previous 2 categories. So we get todoku, todokanai, and oyogu, oyoganai. Their te and ta forms remove the dictionary form ending and replace it with an ide and ida, like this. Todoite, todoita. Oyoide, oyoida. The fourth category includes the verbs with su endings, with the nigh negative forms acting as we would now expect. But the te and ta endings see the su replaced by a shte and a shta, like this. Hanashte, hanashta. The last category shows the irregular verbs, of which the extremely common do, suru, is included. These verb changes exist outside of the previous patterns and need to be learnt as they are. Okay, let's go through those again, listening, repeating, and pausing as you need to. Ao, awanai, atte, atta. Mats, matanai, matte, matta. Uru, uranai, utte, utta. Yobu, yobanai, yonde, yonda. Nomu, nomanai, nonde, nonda. Shinu, shinanai, shinde, shinda. Todoku, todokanai, todoite, todoita. Oyogu, oyoganai, oyoide, oyoida. Hanasu, hanasanai, hanashite, hanashita. Well done! However, we need to do a little more practice and attack this problem from 2 sides, both from the listening speaking and the reading writing sides. Next, we'll look at how we can practice these changes with a piece of paper, a pen, and 5 to 10 minutes of your free time. Get a piece of paper and write the headings as shown on this screen. You should end up with a page that looks something like this, though probably with better handwriting. Next, from memory, write the verb forms out. Check them using the rules discussed before. Then, cover that line and move on to the next one. This is a horizontal practice, where we focus on one verb and all of its changes all at the same time. The other option is to fill the page in, from memory, by columns, not by rows. This is a vertical practice and focuses on the forms rather than the verbs themselves. You can cover each column with a large book, or fold it as shown. This way, you can see the target verb in English, but not see the previous forms to help you cheat. When I was learning the basics of Japanese, I would do this practice every day after I got home from work, maybe 3 or 4 times for each set of verbs, just to make sure I got the changes correct. This practice was very useful for me, and as it is based on the look, cover, write, check principle, should help to develop good demonstrative and procedural knowledge. Well done! Remember that repetition, focus on form, mixed with effort, will make a good practice session. Don't forget to practice by yourselves, and I'll see you next time.